Does traditional education deliver or fall short in educating and nurturing children? Introducing Aligned Learning Revolution, the show that confronts conventional norms and presents dynamic alternatives to transform education. Host Kahila Sivas tackles the foundational issues within classroom walls and advocates for holistic learning opportunities. It's time to reveal the strength of the innovative, holistic neurogrowth learning approach that goes beyond conventional teaching or tutoring methods, assuring every learner of a stress-free learning journey to unlock their fullest potential. Now, join Kahila Sivas.
Hello and welcome. Today, I am thrilled to introduce our special guest, Mike Oster. Mike has been a beacon of motivation and inspiration for over 2 decades, delivering powerful presentation to numerous groups and organizations. His journey is nothing short of remarkable. From his time working in the Fortune 500 company to serving as an elected official and successfully running private businesses, Mike's diverse background has shaped his unique perspective on life and leadership. Not only he excelled in the corporate world, but Mike has also served our country with honor, wearing the uniform of United States of America in Dakota, South Dakota Army National Guard. As a combat veteran, he bravely served in both Operation Iraq Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, bringing a wealth of experience and resilience to everything he does. So, Mike, I'm so excited and thank you for being here today.
I joined the military when I was a senior in high school. I was 17 years old. My dad was a Korean War veteran, and he used to show us the slideshows of when he served in Korea. And he would get very excited telling us about those stories and the different things that he did. And it got me excited about wearing the uniform. But I watched all my brothers and sisters go to college, and so I wanted to do that as well. And I found this thing called the National Guard, and that allowed me to do military service and go to college. And I really honestly thought I would do 6 or 8 years. There were some college benefits. It would allow me to wear the uniform for a while. And just through a lot of different things happening along the way, good things, I became an officer and I got some great assignments. And then, 14 years in, I got a full-time position that I thought was going to be temporary. And so we moved the family and went to a new location and did that for a while, and thinking I would get out of that after maybe 2 years at the very most. In the middle of that, 9/11 happened. And so that created some new opportunities for assignments and different things. And, 36 years later, I finally retired, and I had an awesome career, awesome opportunities along the way, met incredible people, served with, for, and had great people serve for me. Just one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, and such a privilege to be able to do that. During my service, I ran the recruiting battalion for our state for 2 years. And I watched so many young men and women that went to the military entrance processing station trying to join the military and were turned away for a myriad of reasons, academic reasons, moral reasons, physical, and just far more people trying to serve that were not able to. And so it really reminded me that it was an absolute privilege to serve. Military people get thanked for their service all the time, but we need to be thankful that we were allowed to serve, because it is such a privilege. And it's a sacrifice, certainly, for the service member and the family, but it's also a privilege. And I had a great experience and was blessed to be able to do it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for your service from all of us.
Well,
so you said your dad, I just want to take this further. Your dad was the one who kind of modeled it for you, and then that sparked an interest for you, right? In your family.
Yeah. He was, my dad was, a lot of things, obviously if you're lucky, you're raised by a father that's kind of your hero and you look up to. And I was certainly lucky to have one of those kind of dads. And, we grew up on a farm, so he was a hard worker. He taught me about, work ethic and values and trust and integrity and all those kind of things. He was a community volunteer, a service person. He was an elected official. He served as a county auditor. He just did a lot of things, and just one of which was serving in the military. And I think the thing that really got me excited was he was a fantastic storyteller. And so when he would tell us about serving in the military, he would tell these great stories, and I'm sure they were embellished at some level to make them more entertaining. But I was just mesmerized by watching him storytell. And I also watched him present to groups for a variety of different things. And watching him in front of groups of people is probably what made me want to be a professional speaker, because he would just own the room, and I would see people respond to him and come up to him afterwards and talk to him. And I thought, man, I want to do that someday. So both the military service and the public speaking is probably a result of watching him do what he did.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Our show is for parents. Many of them are parents. Listeners here are parents. So I wanted to touch on that fact. How important was that for you to look up to your dad, and he provided that example for you, right?
Yeah. Again, I'm very lucky and privileged to grow up in a house with two parents, both very loving and supportive, not without challenges. My dad was also a recovering alcoholic, multiple times to treatment and different things. And so he had his challenges and demons, and we dealt with those as well. But that also showed me that, you don't have to be perfect to be a parent. You just have to really want to be good and do the right things. But, even he had some failures. And probably the lesson learned there was that failure can be an event. It doesn't have to be your entire life. So I think I was fortunate to have great brothers and sisters too, that kind of helped me see some of the things in those perspectives that maybe I wouldn't have been able to had I not had a close family. But having them around, and most of it being positive, quite frankly, some of the challenges probably made me stronger and a better leader and a better friend, and maybe a better husband and father, even for me, seeing some of those things. So I think it's all really important, if we can keep it in perspective, that even the hard times can be very beneficial if we can get through them and go back and see what we learned and how we got stronger from them. I've got 4 kids. I've been a parent. My oldest son is 35 years old, and I have certainly made a ton of mistakes, but I am so proud of the kids that we raised. And I think a lot of that is because I was raised by great parents, not perfect parents, and I certainly wasn't either, but great parents. So yeah, I feel very blessed for that.
That's amazing, because a lot of us think that if your dad's an alcoholic, there's science and everything points towards that, especially the sons, right? They tend to be also alcoholic, and which was the case for my family, where my dad was, and my brother is to this day, right? So, but that was in your case, right?
Yeah, I've got a brother. Actually, I had 2 brothers. One passed away at a young age, but neither one of us are. None of the kids have succumbed to that, I guess. I do think there's a genetic predisposition if you're not careful to it, at least in the education that we got through going through different treatment or him going through those. And then, of course, the family does some of that and doing some education on it. I think we are cognizant of that, and maybe because of that awareness have been very careful about that, in our lives. So we've been fortunate not to have that continue on genetically through at least our generation.
And how was your mom's relationship during this time? Your dad went to war, left you guys sometime too, right? Because that separation in all the military family also causes a lot of drift, right?
Yeah. So actually, my father served in Korea prior to getting married to my mother. And so this was before kids, before the wife, before any of those things. So and they got married a few years after he returned from Korea. So, and actually was completely out of the military by the time any kids came along. And so we didn't have to deal with that as kids. My children dealt with that with my service and the deployments that I did to Iraq and Afghanistan. And so we kind of went through some of those challenges. But as we talked about it in our household, there were so many people deploying at that time. If you were a military family, the perspective that we took on was it was a privilege to serve. So if I needed to go and they needed to be in that support role, they should be proud of that. And it's going to be hard, but they should be proud of the fact that they have something to do with what's happening right now in our country. And in a way, they're serving as well. And so fortunately, our kids, for the most part, embrace that. Again, not without challenges, but for the most part, it was a positive experience.
So how much of their life did you miss being in the military?
A couple of years, all totaled, probably a little more than that between schools and deployments and different things, maybe close to 3 years total of their lives at different stages and levels. Our kids there's a 12-year difference in the oldest and the youngest and 2 in between. So very different stages of life as we went through those things. But yeah, so the first time I deployed, my oldest son was, in his mid-teens and in high school. And so that created a certain level of challenges, but the youngest one at that time was 3 years old. And so that created a whole different level of challenges. And of course, the teenager is old enough and you can see they're kind of expressing it very clearly, where the youngest one, maybe we didn't know some of the things he was going through at the time. And so again, in hindsight, you wish you knew some of those things ahead of time, but you just kind of go through them and try to figure them out.
Mhm. Absolutely. So now your kids are older. So if there's a young parent listening to us speaking right now, what's your recommendation in terms of, the world has changed, right? And children are growing up in a different environment now than ever before. Parents are having such a tough time just managing and balancing and figuring out what's right and wrong. What's your
Right.
advice? Because you have how many? 4 kids?
That's a great question. I think my advice for the most part is persevere and push through. There's really no right answer for everything that you're going to deal with. And, I've said it before. I'm sure other people have said it too. If somebody could write a book with all the answers for parenting, they would be a very rich person because we'd all buy a copy. Mm-hmm. And every experience is so unique. I look back and the things that I think we really struggled with, or the challenges I expect my kids to think about and go, wow, that was horrible. That's not really their memory or perspective of it. And some of the things that I think were amazing, that, they're like, it was, so you don't even know when you're going through it, what their actual perspective is on it. And I think it's just like anything else. You see the situation at the time, you make the best of that situation and you push through it. And then anything you can glean from it going forward is an opportunity for growth for everybody. So once it's happened, there's nothing I can do about it. And if I'm living in the past and dwelling on that, it's super unhealthy. So if I get through it, it's okay to then realize and recognize that we got through it. And then we can talk about it, but only from the standpoint of trying to learn from it. And so I think that's probably, if I could do some things over, I would let the event be the event and then understand that it's just an event, not a way of life, and then try to learn from it and move forward. Would probably be the biggest thing, because it's just going to keep coming at you. Raising kids, living life, all those things, it's just going to keep coming. And so you deal with it the best you can at the time, learn from it, and move forward, always moving forward.
So take it as a season in your life. Season.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yes. So when, all the military veterans come back into the real world, normal life, into their normal life, it's always hard for them, right? It's a lot of people go through a lot of hard stages to get back into it. Did you had to go through that, or were you prepared to come back?
That's another funny perspective in hindsight. When I came back the first time, I thought I did very well. And we were briefed on that. We were educated on it. We prepared for it, and honestly thought, I got through that pretty well. And several months down the road, when I actually was doing very well, my kids pointed out that, man, Dad, when you came home, you were in a different place. You were not the same person. And I really thought I was. I thought I wasn't going to let that affect me or impact me. And they clearly saw something that even I didn't recognize. So thank goodness because they had education for them as well. Okay. That, hey, your service member may be a little different. They might, and the biggest thing in hindsight, and I see a lot of service members even today, and it's not just deployment related. Anytime they're in a situation where they have a tremendous sense of purpose or a tremendous feeling that what they're doing matters, and then all of a sudden that is taken away from them, there's a struggle there. And I think that's true of everybody, but we see it clearly in the military, at least I did. And I call it loss of purpose PTSD. It's kind of I'm so ingrained and so focused and so locked into what I need to be doing. And then I get home from that deployment and all of a sudden I'm just an 8 to 5, don't know really what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. And you kind of get into an immediate rut. And maybe it's not full blown depression, but it's depressive, and you start to feel different. So I think, and I definitely went through that because I came back to a job that I wasn't crazy about, and that had an impact on me. So that recognition by them more so than me was kind of an interesting realization that even when you don't think you're going through something, or you think you're putting on that facade, the people that really know and love you can see what's really going on.
And how does that affect your relationship with your wife? Because the wife or husband, when people leave and come back, it's a whole, you're going through depression. It's hard for them to come back.
Yeah. I mean, I think they see the struggle and they want to help, but they don't know how because it's very new. And then when it's that specific to a military situation, then I think it's really a challenge for them. And so the military does a fairly good job of trying to educate you that these things are coming and be ready for them. But it's still a struggle and something you've got to kind of work through and try to figure out. And so it just is one of those things that you hope you have a strong enough relationship that you're going to be able to push through those things. And we were fortunate that we did. And my wife is good about figuring out a way to call me out on things without calling me out and creating conflict. And so I'm very fortunate that way as well. And so, yeah, we push through them. And, as people say, if you get through it, what you go through and get through makes you stronger on the other side. It certainly did for us. I mean, we've been married for 36 years. And so we're very blessed to have a very awesome relationship and enjoying, as we talked about, enjoying being empty nesters and having more time together than we ever have before.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So in your time of service, was there any moment that taught you something so profound when you were in that field?
Yeah, probably the biggest life lesson for me related to my military service was when I got a call saying that, hey, you're going to get this battalion command position and you're going to deploy with this battalion and probably have 1,200 people under your command. And having that kind of anxious moment of, what if something terrible happens and I have to write that letter home to a parent or a spouse or, a child. And the realization was that, and it came from a mentor of mine, and it was, what do you do to prepare for that horrific situation so that you can sleep again someday after it happens? And his advice was, all you can do is all that you can do. And that really didn't resonate right away with me. But as I walked away and started kind of thinking about it, if you do everything possible to prepare, and there's only so much you can do, right? But you can do everything you can do. You don't cut anything. You don't do shortcuts. You don't skip anything. You do everything you can possibly do to prepare. But then you have to remember that the enemy gets a vote. And not just in combat, but in life, the enemy gets a vote. I can do everything right, but the enemy's going to get a vote. And as long as I've done all I can do, then I'm going to be able to live with that at some point. Not right away. It's still going to be hard. But if I do all I can do, I don't ever have to have any regrets that, oh man, I wish I would have, because I've done everything I can do. And so that realization for me made me decide that I need to do everything at a level of excellence, and I need to do everything I can possibly do. And that's kind of where my mantra of living where excellence becomes your average came from. And it's not just important in combat, it's important in life. And if you want to be a great father, a great husband, a great volunteer, great business person, great educator, a methodology that I'm going to live where excellence is my average and do all that I can do. Because if I'm going to spend my time on it, then I'm going to spend it at a level of excellence. And so that came from that. You're going to combat with 1,000 soldiers and you're in charge. Okay, I'm going to do things different than I've been doing things. So that was my realization and where it came from.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. I love how you connected that to what you're doing now. So tell us about what you are doing now. You are a motivational and inspirational speaker. And
I am. I'm keynoting and training and doing those kind of things. I'm also a performance excellence coach, trying to help people understand that they can live in a place where excellence becomes their average. The thing that I find most people is holding most people back is themselves. And I've seen that in myself. I've seen it in the people around me. I've seen it in my soldiers, in that, they just don't really, they talk about accomplishing things and goals and dreams, but they really don't think deep down inside they can actually get there. And it's that self-doubt or that inability to see their best self and believe in their best self that keeps them from getting there. And so I've kind of made it my mission now to work with those people, either in group coaching or individual coaching, and help them understand and do the things, put the things in place in their life that will allow them to truly believe they can get there. And that's not going to get them there overnight, but it's going to put them on a whole different path where they can start doing everything at a level of excellence, and they can start to see that progress and actually get to their best self and whatever that is for them. And so that's my new passion. That's what I'm really working on and enjoying. I still love to go out and keynote and do motivational talks. That's still because I think it has an impact on people. I'm fortunate to have the background that I do, to have worked with amazing people, and a God-given ability to stand in front of people and tell stories like my father did and make an impact. And I get done sometimes and I come off of the stage or off the, the front podium or whatever, and people will say, "Hey, tell me what you said about this." And I honestly don't know what I said, because sometimes I really feel like I'm just the vehicle and the message is coming from a different place. And so when you're given that kind of a gift, I feel like I need to be out there using it. And so I've just been so privileged to have a career in the military that I was passionate about, and now this one, and I'm blessed to get up every day loving what I do.
So what else did that experience set you up for what you're doing now? You said about that one thing that you learned, do your best as excellence, right? And what else did it give you to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think just a realization that most of us kind of just go through life not having the moment when you get that realization that, hey, your best matters here. And so it made me start recognizing in other people that they're living at 75% and they think that's it. They think that's what they've got. And if I gave this is probably a little bit of an aggressive analogy, but when I was running the recruiting division, we had some recruiters that just couldn't seem to get anybody in and to join. And it wasn't because we had a bad product. I mean, we had a fantastic product and we had kids out there that want to serve, but they couldn't quite get to where they were putting the right effort in to make it happen. And there really was there's no threat of being fired. When you're in the military, it's just kind of you just get kind of reprimanded. You don't get fired. And so the realization for them was that I had to get them in the mindset of, yeah, if you don't get anybody recruited this month, you're not going to get a little bit of extra pay or something, or maybe you're going to get reprimanded. That's not enough incentive. What if your family depended on it? What if you lost your family if you didn't get somebody in? Well, and their response would be, well, of course, if it was that important, I would get somebody in. And so what's the difference? The difference is just your mindset. And so getting in the mindset of, if you're going to get my time, you're going to get it at a level of excellence. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, don't give me your time. Go give it somewhere else where you can find the passion and the commitment to work at a level of excellence being your average. And so it's that realization that people just sometimes haven't had the opportunity or the moment in time that gives them that perspective. And so I like helping people see that and then find that perspective and just watch them go, wow, and live in a whole new place. And it helps their relationships. It helps them as a volunteer. It helps them as a parent it's incredible. And so the rewards from all of those different things are all a result of seeing that and having that aha moment for me.
And can a person, from their perspective, see the level of excellence they can reach? Because sometimes we're only able to vision from what we are currently at, right? But the excellence. That's
exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. And I actually get that response from people that, well, what if I can't get there? What if that's unattainable for me? And so my first thing is, it's a level of excellence in your mind. It's your level of excellence. You're not competing against anybody else. You're competing against you. And so if I'm here today and then I'm here tomorrow, that's winning. That's living in excellence. That's a new level of excellence now. But you're not competing against me. I'm over here competing against myself. And so the first thing is, stop worrying about everybody else and what they're doing and just worry about you. And you can absolutely up your game, because wherever you're at, there's room for growth. In fact, that's why I call excellence the average. There's a level above excellence that on certain days when you're in the zone and you're just going through the motions, you're spectacular, or whatever that word is for you, above excellence. And so it's the realization that excellence is kind of in the eye of the beholder. It's, you're not competing against others. You're competing against you. Grow every single day, get better every single day, and do things at a level where you can walk away holding your head high and being proud of the work you're doing, instead of just kind of getting by. And it just changes who you are, which changes how you are. And when we get better at who we are, we get better in everything that we do.
And can I compare excellence to being successful? How people say success is a measure of what success looks like for you. Is that something like that for excellence? What I hold?
I think so. Yeah, I think success, if it's not, I would say your success bar is not high enough. I think the two should be very similar. Your success level, you should be hoping to be at a level of excellence. And so I think they could be very much the same. And if you're not agreeing with that, then maybe you need to raise your bar for success, because if you're, again, if you're going to spend your time on something, be committed enough and passionate enough where you want success to be at a level of excellence, and therefore they would be very similar.
And would that level kind of go up, right? As I come to one level not comparing to anyone else, just myself, if I reach an excellence, I can set up another goal to reach another excellence level.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, if I set some goals in fitness, the first set of goals that I set, to reach that goal would be my excellence at that time. And once I reach that, now that's my normal. Maybe that's my baseline. And now my level of excellence is going to be the next level. And so absolutely, that level of excellence is going to be growing and changing as we go forward. And it's all relative. So if I'm getting older, the goal that I had when I was 30 for fitness would have been excellent at age 30. That I'm not going to have that goal at age 50, but that goal can still be excellent because at my age, it's still going to be a level that's beyond average. And so it's ever changing for sure. No matter what it is, that level of excellence for you is changing as you change.
Mm-hmm. Is there a certain age group that you work with in your coaching, or is it?
As far as the coaching goes, yeah, it's professionals that are in the career field and doing the things, in their work life where they've got different things that they're kind of working with. I don't coach youth or, high school kids or college kids or anything like that. So it's people, adults, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to a younger person if they're listening from your, all your experience and what you have gone through? These days, we don't see, we are the average of the 5 people we hang out with, right?
Absolutely.
So the excellence can come from that measure too, right? I can just become average of the people that I hang out with. So
yeah, absolutely. I say that same thing, that we become the average. In fact, I told my kids that as they were growing up. And if you're hanging out with people that are doing bad things, you're going to do bad things. And if you're hanging out with kids that are doing good things, you're going to do good things. It's a product of our environment. And, there's so many studies that prove that to be true. I don't coach youth, but I do speak to youth. And when I speak to youth, I talk to them about, the same things of, you're competing only against you. In fact, I tell kids almost always when I get an opportunity that what other people think about you is none of your business, because if your morals, ethics, and values are where they need to be, then stop worrying about what everybody else is thinking about you. And unfortunately, with social media, it's very easy for people to lash out and say negative things about other people. And that's why I think youth in particular have to be very careful about, caring too much about what other people think. And so that's kind of my first thing for them is get yourself right, know you're doing the right things, morals, values, and ethics, and then focus on you. And the second thing is, if you truly believe in yourself, that self-doubt is prevalent in all of us, but in some cases in youth, it's even harder because they're going through so many different things. And so it's that self-belief in themselves. And so honestly, it's about saying to themselves, I'm a great person. I can do great things. I matter. I'm loved, and I'm going to make a difference in the world. And I give them those positive affirmations and say, you need to start telling yourself this every day, 4 or 5 times a day, so that you can overcome the things that are going to come at you hard in your youth. Yes. And they don't all come from a home with 2 parents and, 2 kids and a dog and a white picket fence. So they're going through something, or they've gone through something, or they're going to go through something. And so I try to help them understand that that's a moment in time. And no matter what you're going through, you're loved, you're awesome, you make a difference, and you're valued. And they need to tell themselves that, because they're the only ones that will be constant throughout their lives. People will come into their lives and go out of their lives. They have to love themselves, believe in themselves, and know that they can make a positive difference in the world. And as long as they're telling themselves that, they're going to be on a path to win. And then pick the right 5 people, like you said, to hang out with, because that's going to matter too. And if you're the top of those 5 people, look for another group of 5 people, because if you're trying to bring everybody up, that means they're kind of bringing you down. And so I'm not saying to get rid of your friends. I'm just saying make sure you always have a group of people that you're affiliated with that are bringing you up.
And how would one know that I'm not playing at my top level of excellence? Like, how do I spot it if I don't notice?
That's a good question. I think it's about this. That's where you have to have that self-awareness, where you have to understand and know internally. It's sort of that gut feeling where you didn't quite give it 100%. I was a track runner in high school, and I could tell at the end of a race if I really gave it my all or didn't give it my all. And I think that analogy is true in just about everything that we do. If I go to take a test and I know I'm not prepared, I know I'm not prepared. And I can try to lie to myself, but I know when I'm lying to myself. And so it's really checking yourself and being honest with yourself. And you know where you're at, you know what level you're at, you know what kind of effort you're putting in. And it's just having the intestinal fortitude to not just be honest with yourself, but then actually do something with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything you want to tell the young children that are growing up in this world right now, currently, with everything that's available to them?
Yeah, I think make good choices, right? There's so many things out there, and so many things are being presented to them, some of which are very negative. And those things are, maybe they give you that immediate self-fulfillment, but they long-term are going to be negative and distracting. And probably the best lesson I was ever taught was actually two lessons. If you see something negative happening, especially if it's happening to somebody else, if you see something, you have to say something, and that takes tremendous courage. But that will serve you well for your entire life. If you see something, you have to say something. And the other thing is, throughout life, you're going to have an opportunity to either do the hard right or the easy wrong. And the hard right will always take you in the right direction. And the easy wrong will almost always take you in the wrong direction. And so see something, say something, and always do the hard right. And if you kind of sort through those in your mind and get an understanding of what those mean, and you will start to see things in life where, as soon as today, you will see something where you should say something. And you will have an opportunity to make a choice. One will be hard and right, and one will be easy and wrong. And as you start to see those things and you go those right directions, you will start to see a difference in your life. And it'll be a positive difference, not just for you, but for the people around you.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's beautiful. One last question I have for you is, if a parent has a child who's looking to go into military, what's the best way to support them?
I think a conversation, understanding why they want to go into the military, and an open mind, allowing them to express to you what they think they're going to get out of it, what they think they're going to gain, and the positive difference and impact that it could make on their life. It also, if I'm a parent of a child that wants to go into the military, and I have a child in the military, it's that understanding that if I, even though I served, this is an opportunity for me to serve again by supporting a child in the military. And so as a parent, understanding that as well, is that it's not just that child that's going to serve, you're going to serve at some capacity as well. And so it's an opportunity for them. But being open-minded, having a conversation, understanding why they want to do what they do, and then asking the person the child that's thinking about going, asking them if you can go and visit with the recruiter with them, so that you can better understand. There's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misinformation about the military. And I think becoming fully educated, understanding what they want to do and why they want to do it. And unless there's some reason, and I don't know what that would be, that it would be catastrophic for that child to go to the military, finding a way to support that if that's their desire, and be side by side with them, because it is a challenge. I mean, it's hard to be in the military, and you need a support network to be successful and have a positive experience. And so figure out a way, have that conversation, visit with the recruiter with them, and figure out a way to be supportive of that decision. Because at age 18, they can do it with or without, parental consent. And so I just think that the overall experience for everybody is so much better if they can do it together and support each other in that, endeavor.
Yeah. Is it son in military? Your son?
My son. I have a son. Yeah.
Yeah. In the military. Yeah. Did that come from seeing you and grandfather, or is it just he started getting it on his own, this idea that I'm going to go into military?
Yeah, at least for us, it was very clear. My oldest son and oldest daughter, I probably pushed to join the military, and they both pushed back and did not. Our youngest daughter and youngest son, we sort of let decide. Our youngest daughter tried to join the military and had a heart murmur that fortunately they found it. We were able to get it fixed, but then she was disqualified from joining. So we had, the two children we had that wanted to join, as I said before, we had one that was not allowed to, turned away like so many are, and one that was allowed to. But I found the less that I pushed and let them make their own choice, and they were seeing it certainly and what was going on. And so the less I pushed, the more interest that they showed. And so certainly his exposure to both my youngest daughter and son, their exposure to all the things that went with that. And the military does a great job with youth programs, and they were involved in those too. So that had a lot to do with it as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Mike, for all your wisdom and your service to the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kohila. I appreciate it. And thanks for what you're doing. I think what you're doing with education is incredible. And I am a big advocate of people learning in all different ways. And, the way we've always done it is not necessarily the way that we should always be doing it. And so I appreciate what you're doing and applaud your goals for the number of people you want to affect. And I have no doubt in my mind that you will absolutely accomplish that. So God bless you. And thanks for what you do as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that blessing. Thank you, Mike. So that was a great conversation with Mike. I loved what he said about we're the average of the 5 people we hang out with. We heard of that phrase so many times, but we really need to think about these words that we are being told. Sometimes when they're in sentences, we kind of just lose the meanings of some of these things that are being said, but just really calm and being mindful of stuff that we tell ourselves. Now, when we are hanging out with some people that are not playing at their full potential and they're at their 20% potential, and if we average ourselves down to what they are, we're never going to get to our excellence. So it's not a comparison between another person and us. It's just within us. We have to have this excellence bar, or even the success bar, right? What does success looks like to you? What does excellence looks like to you? So these are very, very important conversations parents can have, teachers can have, and coaches can have. But unfortunately, teachers don't have time in the classroom. So that's what, as a certified neurogrowth learning success coaches, our coaches are trained to go into the details of where is your child playing, right? What is the level they're playing at? Are they setting up the bar high for them? And why do we need to reach excellence? Because that's what world demands. If we go into the workplace, that's what they're demanding. So we need to prepare our children to that excellence. Otherwise, they won't compete on a global scale. And at the end of the day, the world revolves around them going into the workplace. They have to go into the workplace. So sometimes teachers tells me that parents are all for their kids not doing work at school, or sometimes some parents say, leave them alone. But the thing is, this is the place a child can learn how to work smart, not hard, but also work their mind so that they can prepare for the future. This is the future preparation ground, is the school. So sometimes there's a gap that's happening where we're not asking our children to play at a certain excellence, and that excellence should be set by them, and that comes from conversation. And again, every time I bring a guest, you can see and hear everyone says, have a conversation with your child, right? Even I asked Mike about, what if a child wants to go to military? What is his first advice? Have a conversation. Because when you are having a conversation and when you're ready to listen to your kids, they are going to tell you exactly what they have in your mind, and you can work with them. So it's no longer your opinion. For example, he even said the first 2 kids, he pushed them to go into military. The second 2 children, he never asked them to, but they wanted to. So this is the conversation that's important in our family structure now. That's missing is meaningful conversations. So how do we create them? We carve out time for meaningful conversations. I've always said, go for a walk, go for a drive, and have a meaningful conversations with your child and see where their excellence bar is. And who are they hanging out with? Are they setting their excellence bars low? If they are, why are they doing that? And can they change it? And can we raise it? Because they do, at the end of the day, have to play in the real world. And the real world doesn't allow them to not be anyone, right? The real world expects our kids to perform and be this and have the 21st century skills. So we need to really, really help our kids. So that starts with conversation. Again, another person pointing to conversation. I know you might be looking for a big technique here that I'm going to tell or someone's going to tell, but we're all going to go back to that foundation, which is meaningful conversations. So my question to you today is, are you having meaningful conversation? And if you are trying to and you're making excuse, I would want you to retrain your mind from making that excuse and carve out 10 minutes. I'm not asking for a lot. 10 minutes to have meaningful conversation. Doesn't even have to be every day. Even once a week, 10 minutes will do a world of wonders versus nothing. So thank you for listening, and thank you for all the people who are in the military or any type of service and being in the front line and helping us all stay safe and well. So thank you, and I'll see you on another episode.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Our purpose for this episode was to spark a reevaluation of the current education system. For more episodes offering practical and comprehensive strategies to enhance learning, please visit www.learningsuccessacademy.com. It is crucial to ensure that children have access to the holistic neurogrowth learning approach, enabling them to break free from the constraints of an outdated educational framework. This is your opportunity to gain insight and break away from a flawed system, setting your children on a path to lifelong success that truly nurtures their thirst for knowledge. That's all for now. We look forward to having you join us for the next episode.